Good evening. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 5 p.m. The school committee may seek to convene open session and recess to executive session for discussion and/or action regarding those items of business exempt from open meetings under Rhode Island General Law 42464, and A, discussion, personnel job performance, fiscal year 2026-2027 faculty and staff reduction, Rhode Island General Law 42465A1. Individuals have been notified, including their right to have any discussion held in open session.
I'll make a motion to recess to executive session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Test, test, test. Test, test, test. Test 1, test 2, test 3. That's pretty scary. Is that better? Test, test, test 1. Hello? Hello? Can you hear me? Is that better? Test, test, test. Is that better? I still hear the. Test one. Test. Test. Test, test. Test. Sound. It's worse. Hello, hello, hello.
Good evening. We're going to call the meeting to order at 6:05. Before we start the meeting, I just want to say, as you may know, there was a medical incident at the high school yesterday morning. We would just like the family to know our continued thoughts are with them. All right, we're going to start with a roll call. Stuart Lander,
Here.
Kate Massinati,
Here.
Paula Whitford,
Yeah.
Michelle Brousseau,
Here.
James Recidivo,
Here.
and I, Carol Better, am here. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Do I have a motion to seal the minutes of the executive session?
Make a motion to seal the minutes of executive session.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
That motion passes. There were no votes taken in executive session. Next up, we have comments from the community. James?
Okay. We have some sign-ups today, so I'd like to welcome France Delias up to the podium, please. I apologize if I don't get your name right. Just correct me at the podium if you can.
Welcome.
Good evening, members of the board, administrators, families, and members of our community. Thank you for allowing me to speak this evening. My name is Franz Delias. I am the only French teacher at South Kingstown High School. I stand before you today with respect for the difficult decision you are about to take tonight. I understand that budget constraints require careful thought and, at times, painful choices. However, I respectfully ask you to reconsider the decision to eliminate French at the middle school and to leave Spanish as the only world language option for our students. This issue is about more than staffing. It's about educational opportunity, student choice, and the long-term effect of our academic programs. One of the greatest responsibilities of a school district is to provide students and families with meaningful choices. Not every student has the same interest, goals, talents, and cultural connections. When we offer more than one language, we recognize that diversity. We affirm that students should have the opportunity to pursue the language that best aligns them with their aspiration and interests. For many students, Spanish is an excellent choice, but it should not be the only choice. Other students are drawn to French for many reasons: family heritage, academic interests, future travel, international careers, diplomacy, business, arts, and simply a genuine love of the French language and country. When French is removed from the middle school, those students and families lose the opportunity to choose the path that is right for them. Just as important, removing French from middle school will have serious consequences for the high school French program. A successful high school program depends on a strong foundation. Middle school is where interest begins, skills develop, and students begin to see themselves as language learners. If students do not have the option to start French in middle school, many will never begin it at all. Others may feel discouraged from entering the program later. Over time, that loss of access will inevitably weaken enrollment and threaten the future of the program that has already demonstrated clear success. Our high school French program has given students opportunity and achievements of which this district should be proud. Students have earned the seal of biliteracy, a meaningful recognition of proficiency in two languages that benefits them in college and in the workforce. Students have taken and succeeded in AP French exams, demonstrating high levels of academic commitment and achievement. They have participated in the Grand Concours, the National French Contest, representing the studies with excellence. Yesterday, 3 students have received medals and certificates for the performance in the French contest. And though French club, they have built enthusiasm, community, and cultural engagement beyond the classroom. These accomplishments do not happen by accident. They are the result of sustained program, student day education, and a clear pathway of instruction. If that pathway began to disappear at the middle school level, the success we celebrate in high school will become more harder to sustain. World language education is not an extra. It develops communication skill, cultural awareness, empathy, and global understanding. These are qualities our students need in order to strive in an increasingly interconnected world. I respectfully ask you to consider not only the immediate budget impact of this decision, but also its long-term effect on students, families, and the future of the French program in our district. Preserving French in middle school means preserving choice, protecting opportunities, and sustaining a successful high school program that has already brought distinction to our school. As our French Honor Society motto says, vouloir, c'est pouvoir. That means where there's a will, there's a way. Thank you for your time, your consideration, and continued commitment to our students. Merci.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the list is Noelle Johnson.
Hi, my name is Noelle Johnson, and Monsieur Delias has been my teacher for 2 years. If he was anyone else, I would have stopped taking French before my sophomore year, but thankfully each day is one that's memorable. He makes me want to come to French class. No matter my mood before, when I walk into his classroom, he's there with a smile and a happy attitude to bring light to my day. Despite the grumpy moods from me and my classmates, he is there to make us laugh and smile. And when we're frustrated and don't understand, he doesn't move on until he's sure we understand. I think it's important to have a native French speaker as the French teacher. I feel more confident that I'm speaking and learning French from an actual French speaker so that I can comfortably communicate with native French speakers in Paris. I'm here to ask you to reconsider laying off Monsieur Delias. Not only is he a good teacher, he's reliable and is excited to be a teacher. I know that so many of us, his students, would miss him and his class. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next on the list is Hazel Jeremiah.
Hello to the school board and all others attending the meeting tonight. I would like to first thank you for your time and consideration of what I have to say. My name is Hazel Jeremiah, and I'm currently a sophomore at South Kingstown High School. I'm here to speak on the matter of the budget cuts involving the French program. As a current student enrolled in our school's French program, I do not believe that letting go of Mr. Delias is the right decision. Our French program is very important to me and many others at our school. I know this because of a petition ran by myself and others who care deeply about the French classes. We collected over 80 signatures in favor of keeping Mr. Delias as our French teacher. I have the signatures here with me if they would like to be reviewed. The impact of Mr. Delias to our school spans far beyond just his teaching and his own students, shown to me because of the many students who signed the petition who expressed a friendly relationship with him, even if not being in his class. After 2 years of being a student, I have been able to easily connect with him and his material. I believe him to be a great representation of the community, hard work, and care that South Kingstown schools strive for. Thank you again for your time, and I hope that you will take this decision into reconsideration.
Thank you.
Next on the list we have Katie Garvin.
Hi, my name's Katie Garvin. I live in Kingston. I feel kind of mean even addressing any of this to all of you because I feel like we know that you don't want to make any of these cuts. So we know from previous meetings in this budget cycle that you tried really hard to figure out how to get the funding so that we weren't in this position, so we weren't having to lay off beloved teachers, having to potentially displace amazing elementary school teachers that are really doing incredible work with students and families and are just so vital to the community. One of the things that obviously we all know, we've been talking about it for years, especially coming out of COVID, the mental health of our students has been in a very precarious position for a number of years now. If I have my numbers correctly, which correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say over the course of the last maybe 4 years, we've already gone down 3 to 4 full-time counselors, social workers, mental health professionals in the district. So we're already really whittling that down. I think everyone who works with children, has children, reads any research about children, it's safe to say that mental health is one of the trickiest things to figure out how best to support. I think we all know that by cutting any additional services within the schools, we're just putting people at a higher vulnerability, not just our students, but also our families. There is a very long waiting list for outside of school mental health support. Sometimes families are waiting months to get in somewhere that their insurance takes. Sometimes there's challenges around transportation. There's challenges around finding the right fit for your child. It's very different than kids being able to see someone every day in the hallways, out and about in the school community, and then they know that that person is there as a possibility if they're struggling. So I feel, again, like saying to you all, like, could you reconsider, feels like we're asking for something impossible, because if the money's not there, I realize that you're kind of trying to invent this ability to save everyone and everything. One thing that could be helpful for us, and I know you can't answer this in this way, but if this is a situation where I sat in the town council meetings and there were things said like, we do not want any children to go without. We do not want any schools to go without. So if it needs to be that something is revisited with the town, if that's possible, and there's a way to communicate that, it seems like these cuts that are on the table seem impossible to even wrap our heads around. So I guess what I'm saying is if there's a way to throw back to the community, like, well, what you could do is this. I think people are available for whatever might help. Again, we're talking about beloved educators, and we're talking about really some of the most vulnerable kids in our community that really need, and really our whole community that needs to know that the mental health of our students is of a critical importance to everyone. So I don't feel like I have to ask any of you to reconsider. I guess I'm saying that we need to know what could possibly be done so that this doesn't even have to be a conversation, that any of these people remain, you know, on a layoff list, or any of these positions remain hanging in the balance. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, Penelope Fillion.
Hello, my name is Penelope Fillion, and I'm a junior at the high school. First, I would like to thank you all for giving us the opportunity to speak here at this meeting and to advocate for a beloved teacher at the high school. I first would like to express the importance of middle school languages and the options that it gives. Ever since I was in elementary school, I remember having the option to take multiple classes and how that would enrich my options, and how I discovered a language that I truly had a passion for in French. And I was thankfully able to continue that here at the high school with a wonderful teacher, as you all have seen and heard, and how important that truly is for middle school students. And secondly, I would also like to express how important Monsieur Delias is to our school culture. He has single-handedly built up the French program from being close to extinction to having 4 children take the AP exam this year, and he has expanded our French club so much exponentially, and he single-handedly runs these things. He signed us all up for the Certified Literacy, which many of us passed. He signed us up for Le Grand Coucou, which is a national French contest, where he actually just won an award last night, which only 3 teachers in this whole state of Rhode Island won, which is very impressive. And I would also like to express how imperative it is to have a multicultural perspective, as Monsieur is from a francophone country, Haiti. He can give us first-hand experience and insight on other cultures who speak French that are not France or Canada, as so many courses often focus on, and how important in a school that can gloss over so many cultural histories to be able to hear from someone who has personally lived with that experience and make sure that every story is visible to everyone at the high school. I would also like to highlight Monsieur's character as a teacher. He is an incredibly safe space for so many students. He is truly a place people can go to. Whenever I walk into his class with anything less than a smile, he will immediately know something is wrong and will ask me if everything's okay, and I truly believe that he means it every time he asks me that. And he has inspired me to continue taking French, and I'm going to minor in college, so I would like to credit him for giving me the passion, and so many other students to continue at higher levels. So I would ask all of you to reconsider, although I know it's a very difficult position for you all to be in. There's no easy choice here, but I just like to shed light on how incredible he is, and the program is thanks to him. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Emma Laney.
Hi, my name is Emma, and I'm a senior here at SKHS. I've been with Mr. Diaz for 4 years now, so when I heard that he was being laid off, it was very sad for me to think about the students that wouldn't be able to have him for 4 years, like Penny and other kids who've been a part of French. And I truly think that my time at SK has really been impacted by Mr. Diaz. I took French in elementary school, but didn't enjoy it as much until I came into the high school, where I realized that I truly do have a passion for this language, and I credit that all to him. He's wonderful in the classroom. He's always upbeat, always there to lend a helping hand, and learning a language can always be quite embarrassing and can be hard at times, especially for teenagers, because that's something we don't want to show vulnerability or embarrassment. So when you're learning a language, it's really important to have someone there who can guide you through it, and also who just really understands the culture in a way that a lot of people wouldn't be able to get the perspective from. So being from a francophone country and having those experiences is truly valuable to high school students. As my friend Penny said earlier, we've been able to do some great French things through him. We've taken the Grand Coucou, which is a national French exam. I took the AP exam this year, as well as I passed the Certified Literacy, and I credit that all to him. Without Mr. Diaz, I truly don't think I would have this passion for language. I was able to travel to France, and I actually spoke the language with some of the natives there, and it was very tough at first, but I just kept thinking, Mr. Diaz would be so proud of me to see me up there speaking to everyone. And I flubbed over so many words, but he laughs, and he is very respectful, and he tells you, like, here's what you did wrong and here's what we can work with, but I appreciate you for trying. So, you know, sometimes I'll add in an English word when we're having a conversation, you know, because I'm not perfect, but he always understands. So yeah, as everyone else said before, I urge you to reconsider your decision with him. And I think he's a really important aspect of the South Kingstown community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next we have Kristen Ross.
To the members of the school community, I'm here today on behalf of Monsieur Delias and the rest of the World Language Department. Me and many other students have heard of plans to lay off Mr. Delias, and this will be an injustice to the current and future French students. Learning languages is extremely important for brain development. There's thousands of studies on this already, but Cambridge University recently found that brains of bilingual people actually have more neurons. This means that their memory and cognition is increased, and this will not go away throughout your life. By learning French and any other language, students are not only gaining a valuable skill that will help them later on in life, but they are actually improving their neurological health. This starts young, starting even at the middle school, and continuing into the high school. The language department works extremely hard with every lesson, and they prepare students for higher learning. Each year, they help students to pass their respective AP exams and the Seal of Biliteracy, which has an extremely high pass rate thanks to their dedication. I'm a four-year Spanish student, actually, but I am very lucky to have the opportunity to take a language that I love. This opportunity should not be deprived of the many talented and passionate French students that we see here tonight. The French language should not be stricken from the curriculum. By keeping this option, y'all would be allowing students to become inspired and find their love for the French language. While I have never had the honor of having Monsieur Delias as a teacher, his care for his students is clear. Sorry, my handwriting's really bad. Removing Mr. Delias and the French program would be an injustice to our community and would not reflect the values of the South Kingstown School District. Thank you for your time, and please do your best to reconsider.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come and speak at the podium? Please state your name since we don't have it on the thing.
No problem. Hi. My name is Janelle Jaber Morelli, and I am a parent. My girls go to West Kingston Elementary. I actually hopped on the PTO train last June and became a board member, and then I also started subbing there. So I think this year it's easy for me to say how many days I haven't been at that school, because it might only just be a handful. I get to see the staff there firsthand and how they interact and work with the kids is unbelievable. It is a small school, so each staff member has a huge impact on all of the students. It's not, and it travels from grade to grade. So if someone is their kindergarten teacher, even until they're in their 5th grade, they absolutely still have a relationship with them. So they aren't just names on a list. They are so much more than that to our students. They mean the world, and they make a difference. If something isn't working, I have seen in the room they try a different tactic, and they go above and beyond. So please reconsider our staff members. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come up? We usually only let you speak once, but I'm going to let you come up, but you're going to keep it really brief, right?
Yeah. Do you think I could read a letter that my friend wrote on behalf of her?
All right, I think they said it's okay, so go ahead.
All right. So when I refer to myself as I am talking about my friend. My name is Marley Kurtlink, and I am a student of South Kingstown High School. For the past 2 years, I have had Mr. Delius as my French teacher, and once I heard the news that he may no longer be a teacher at SK, I was very upset. Mr. Delius is a beloved teacher who really cares about his job and his students. I look forward to coming to his class and makes learning French fun. Even after school, he dedicates his time to us with French Club. Anyone who has taken his class knows how much he cares about teaching students French language and culture. When I learned coming into the high school that I would learn French from someone whose first language is French, that made me very excited. People who have graduated from SK still talk about how much they really loved being in Mr. Delius' class. It would make me sad to learn that school has decided to let him go because he is truly an amazing teacher. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come and speak? Please speak, let us know your name.
My name is Tim LaRose. I'm a parent of 4 students in the SK system, 2 in elementary, well, 3 in elementary, and 1 in middle school. I'd just like to sort of echo what Janelle had said about the continuity of, teachers that are there. All 4 of my girls have had the same kindergarten teacher, and 2 of them have had second grade teacher, and learning that second grade teacher no longer has a job, obviously, there's tough decisions to be made, but continuity is a big deal when you think about the connections that not just the student has, but the family has with that teacher. We develop a good line of communication and are able to communicate with that teacher about the mental health and how our student is doing, how our child is doing. Those are things that aren't on spreadsheets and names that you can't really quantify. So it's tough when you're looking at a list and looking at who's last in and first out. Those are things where I think you have to lean on principals and the other leaders within the school or schools to figure out who is the unfortunate one or ones that have to go and make these difficult decisions. It's really hard as we see our kids go through the school system to have a break in that continuity because it does mean a lot to the families when we have that right fit, we know what to expect, and we really like that teacher, and we see the progress that they've made. Just this year, my second grader was up here about 4 months ago getting Student of the Month with that teacher. And I don't think that would have been possible without her because she really got her out of her shell. So it's really unfortunate, disheartening to see that continuity broken with some teachers. So, they're hard decisions, but I'd like you guys to, if you can, look at it again and see who. It's hard to gather that information, but it's really important. So it makes a big decision, makes a big impact on not only the kids but the family. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to come speak?
Hi there. My name is Maggie Brown. I'm a mom to 3 girls who currently attend South Kingstown schools. My oldest is at Broad Rock Middle School in the 7th grade. And I've got 2 girls at West Kingston Elementary School, one in 5th grade and one in 1st. I am on PTO as one of the co-presidents at West Kingston. I was also a graduate of South Kingstown schools, and my parents were graduates of South Kingstown schools. So we've been hanging out here for a while. And I think what I'd like to convey is that we, as a town, for as long as I can remember, have been one that have valued excellence in education. And I know in more recent years, there has been a very vocal, but I think they are a minority group of people who do not seem to have the enthusiastic support for our educators that we have. So I think my point here is that we are here, and this is so important to us. And I wanted to speak specifically about Mrs. Carnes, who's behind me, who one of my daughters had as a fourth grade teacher last year. And prior to having Mrs. Carnes, getting my daughter to school every day was such a battle. We had a little school avoidance thing happening. I'm a licensed school counselor, and I spent many mornings hanging over Mara's bed, talking to her underneath, because she had taken off to avoid the school bus because she wasn't going to school. And Mrs. Carnes turned it around for her in such a huge way, and she has remained a tether for her and her person in that building, and that connection has turned her around and made her excited to go to school, and it makes her feel like she belongs. And I can't possibly overstate the importance of a connection like that in a building for a kid. And so when we're looking at making these cuts, which I know you do not want to do, I think it's just really important to remember that the quality of the educator that we have in Mrs. Carnes specifically is so special, and I would dare say that she is one of the best that I have encountered in all of my years in this town, myself as a student and my children. So I would love, love, love if we could find a way to work toward keeping Mrs. Carnes because she's been everything to our family. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak?
Hi, my name is Lily Cody, and I'm a junior at South Kingstown High School, and I had Monsieur as my teacher for 2 years, Monsieur Delios, and he's really enlightened my passion for the language. I started taking French in 7th grade, and I was never very good at it, and the curriculum and how the class was structured, it was very hard, and it didn't make me want to learn more until I came to the high school. Monsieur brings a lot of fun into the class while also making sure you know French. His tests and how everything is structured, it's not just based off memorizing, it's based off of fully understanding and developing a love for the language. He wins so many awards, and he genuinely makes all the kids so happy in his entire class. His class is filled with so much joy. He'll sing to us French songs, and he'll teach us in conventional and unconventional ways that really connect with the students in ways I haven't seen many teachers be able to do. Out of all the people that I know who have had Monsieur Delios, nobody has ever come to me with a negative point of view of that class or of him, because he just brings it with so much energy and gives you opportunities. I've always wanted to travel abroad, as I never have, and I've always wanted to go to France, and knowing that I know parts of the language is very helpful, and I never would have gotten there without Monsieur as my teacher. And I think it'd be very good if you guys could reconsider your decision about having him teach here next year, because he means a lot to all of the students here. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, with that, we're going to close public comment. Okay, it's going to bring us to item number 4, school committee business. A, discussion action, fiscal year 2025-2026 budget update. Mr. Pedraza?
Thank you, Mr. Snow. Members of the committee, actually in terms of the first item here, and for most of them as they deal with both our current and future fiscal years, it is my pleasure to turn it over to Mrs. Proctor to give us updates. We're going to start in our current and then evolve into next school year. So, Mrs. Proctor.
Thank you so very much. We're going to first discuss this handout. So fiscal 2026 starts off with our revenue this year of $63,344,649.01. Our expenses, which include current encumbrances of $62,573,523.60. That leaves us a surplus of $771,125.41. However, we have additional expenses of $1,663,650.71. We're also have unexpected expenses which are not encumbered for or budgeted for between now and the end of the school year that may arise of $42,000. We are going to transfer due to CIP expenses that we have spent from our CIP account of $1,265,000. And we are expected to have a surplus at the end of the year of $330,474.70. That is correct. That is an additional $130,474.70 because I had originally stated we were looking at $200,000 to end the year with.
So this is most up to date as we talked in previous meetings about closing encumbrances, having our finance department get us as close to our actual number as possible. And that we were in that, again, we thought we were in that conservative estimate of 100 to 200,000. As we go through that exercise, we are now anticipating that $330,000 of surplus in this fiscal year. That, again, if realized, would be something that we could then attach to FY27. Again, in the last budget proposal in front of you, last meeting, there was $200,000 of assumed additional fund balance, in addition to the $1 million of fund balance that we had already allocated in the preliminary FY27. If it were the committee's pleasure, which again, it isn't a pleasure because again, the more we use fund balance, the more that we increase our structural deficit, but we do have that as an option before you. And so again, as we get to the close of next fiscal year, we'll keep on giving updates and keep on getting into that deficit surplus. Again, going back a few meetings, back to our joint meetings, this is the amount that Council President McEntee was referring to in the 900,000, and we said it's not 900,000. We hope we can land somewhere in the middle. This is where we're coming. And again, as we get closer and closer to the end of this school and fiscal year, that number, we gain surety with it. However, things need to be fixed. The lights need to go on. There are still things, unexpected costs that can arise, but this is good. This is the good news in terms of our estimate on our end. Still leaving some unexpected expenses has gone up from last meeting.
Any questions on the budget update?
Yeah, between now and the end of the fiscal year, and I know even beyond the end of the fiscal year, we still have encumbrances that we need to make good on. Do you foresee the surplus, like what kind of variance would you expect for the surplus? Are we talking like a few percentage points, larger, 10% or more, just trying to get a sense of how far up or down this can move in the next month and a half and beyond.
I'm going to say 300 to be on the safe side. That's why we put in that $42,000 to help us through for unforeseen expenses between now and the end of the year. I mean, we do have to get through the month of September due to the longer school year. We could have an unforeseen repair that needs to be done. Wouldn't be very common for anything in our HVAC system to maybe be tended to. So that's why we wanted to have something in there. Right now, all our encumbrances have gone through, and we have closed out the POs that are not going to be used for the rest of the year. And we went through today and verified our payroll expenses, our payouts at the end of the year for anybody who is retiring, and in stipends that have to be acknowledged and paid out at the end of the year. So we did that whole exercise this afternoon.
Thank you.
Any other questions? So, thank you very much. This is very good information to have. I appreciate it. That'll bring us to the next item, B, discussion action fiscal year 2026-27 transportation update. Again, I'll turn this over to the superintendent.
Thank you. So as when it came to transportation last time, again, similar budget conversations. However, we also wanted to make sure that the community's values were reflected in when we went to repost the transportation RFP. This is where I wish I had better news. Unfortunately, we continue to have only one bidder. Additionally, that single bid on a one-year contract also went up. The contract went up, they're saying, because of the Department of Labor has now instituted a, forget when the law went into effect, but it is now the prevailing wage has now gone up and applies not only to drivers but also monitors, where in our last budget proposal, their proposal had the prevailing wage for their drivers but did not have the prevailing wage. It was a substantial increase but did not meet the prevailing wage threshold. This proposal does. So I will turn it over to Mrs. Proctor for those specific dollar amounts.
So the prevailing wage for the monitors went up $4.25 per hour, which makes them now at $40 per hour. So our 1 year, with everything except for field trips. So you have to put in additional amount for field trips, and we're budgeting an additional $8,000 for field trips. Comes to $4,865,812. So it went up 35. Here's my number. 35,500, I believe.
So ultimately, while it still is an increase, it is not the magnitude of the initial increase, which again, we budgeted 11%, which was what our surrounding communities had reported in their recent in their recent bids. Our initial bid went up 33%, which was $1.2 million, and so we are around still that range. However, again, in the most recent bid or round, we would not be signing on for a multi-year contract.
Can I add something to it?
I have a couple questions.
So let me add something to this. Ocean
I'll wait.
State is not our only transport services that we have to pay for. We also have to pay for that limousine service. It's just in the name. It's not in the vehicles. for the athletics, that's a separate RFP that you voted on last time. And then the other part is I believe it's called the RIDE, that transports our SPED students. So those are the three components that make up our transportation number.
Couple of questions. First, did we get any feedback from those companies that we put an RFP out for, or did they just not respond?
Our RFP reflects what they had said. The one company called Zoom had indicated that their bid would be much higher than the one that Ocean State has given us due to their technology on their buses.
So, I guess the next question is, how is it that other communities go up 11% or so, and we go up 35, 30, what are we up to?
It was 33%.
33%? How does that happen?
So my understanding is that each zone, if you will, is its own entity and has its own bargaining units that sets that piece. Additionally, we were actually in, I believe, the 5th year of our our transportation contract. So the level of increase that we didn't see, even though we were, one might say that this was 5 years coming, given that.
How long is this contract for?
1 year.
That's good news.
This would be a 1-year contract, as well as give us opportunity in terms of connecting. Again, we continue to be in contact with RIDE to talk about the statewide contract. I continue to be in conversations with surrounding communities, whether that be about rethinking how we potentially do athletic transportation, how we do our private transportation, as well as we'll look to see when their contracts end to see if there's a opportunity for a regional bid. Additionally, I don't know if this contributes or not, however, the proposed revision to the state funding formula, which again is not in this legislative session, does make, in the proposed legislation, would have transportation and South Kingstown have that be an offset. However, again, those things may never happen, but again, that's conjecture at this point, but the best way I can answer your question.
So this is up for action. What is expected of, well, 2 questions. What's expected of us tonight? Are we supposed to act on this?
Yeah, so it should be just discussion in that this is in terms of contributing towards FY27. This is now that fixed cost. With this being the only bid, a 1-year bid, we would like to we're going to make this our assumption moving forward into FY27, and we would have the accepting of the bid on next agenda. Okay. But in our model of crafting a final FY27, we wanted folks to have the most updated numbers and the rationale behind those numbers, as well as the results. The accepting of the bid, of the contract, would be at our next meeting a week from this evening.
Okay. And then, so my second question is from item A and item B, all of those numbers drive what we will discuss in item C. All those updated numbers have been factored in, I'm assuming?
That is correct. It is everything before you is ultimately A, B, C. We're then going to look for guidance on or have a discussion around D, because again, what our goal will be is to have a final FY27 before this committee a week from today, and we want you to know, again, these are some of the drivers that are in there and the actions that we take or don't take tonight will affect how, how we craft that final budget.
Gotcha, thank you.
So, yes, in terms of what we had here, it may have been, there is no action. We just wanted to make the committee aware and factor that into our discussions moving forward for next fiscal year.
Question, and I'm wondering if anybody has been in contact with the town to find out if any of the reimbursements have returned back to the town yet from the approved projects that went out. Because we need more money. And, we can keep looking at the budget and keep trying to not cut programs and not cut staff, but our reality is that we are most definitely doing that. And in light of what has just happened, we really can't afford to be doing this. So the one thing that sits heavy on my heart is not having the funding from our town to provide our students with what they need. And we're putting teachers out of work, and it's not the time for that. There's potential to call them back, but do we know that for certain? So my question is, has anybody reached out to the town to see if any of that reimbursement money has hit back into the town, and when they're going to disperse it over to the schools?
So, yes, we've been in touch with the town council. They have every intention that the fund is set up. Sylvia is working on that. And the reimbursements haven't come in yet. I'm not sure on the timetable. That is a good question. But we have assurances that that fund will be set up, but only to pay for building improvements and maintenance. So those funds that come back from reimbursement go back into our buildings, which is leveraged to get further reimbursement. So that the long way around, that's not going to impact transportation directly because that goes to building improvements and maintenance.
But I think you misunderstood me. I'm not talking about transportation in general.
And I think
I'm talking about everything that we have discussed tonight.
And I know, but this agenda item is transportation.
So, in reading the agenda, item A and item B both say discussion action, but we're not taking action on either of those items tonight?
That is correct. So in terms of there is no action to take on those items specifically.
Thank you. And my other question is, Ocean State was the one that responded to our request for bids. Is there a reason why that's a one-year contract?
So we, in our updated RFP, we put requests for 1 year, 2 year, and 3 year. They responded with a 1 year. They had previously responded in the previous bid with the conditions of the 3 years plus options. When they replied to this bid, there was a 1 year only.
Yeah. Okay. And 33%? Like, I know.
So this
of course,
is...
I do know how much it cost me to fill my car last week, so, yeah.
This is more of an opinion probably because I think it's state law, which I just want to air. I don't agree with. I don't understand it, and I don't know what it would take to move the state in a different direction, but I respect people to make decisions of where to send their kids to school, but having to pay for transportation for kids who end up in a private school for other reasons other than the right reasons for us to be sending, providing transportation, and I don't have the exact number of what that is, but that is absolutely the wrong way to go. So, just an opinion.
We have a lot of unfunded mandates from the state, and there are several around transportation, but this is where we're at.
So I want to ask a couple questions about the bids. Number one, is there any room for negotiation with Ocean State regarding the bid?
In theory, they are, so legally, because they are a sole bidder or a lone bidder, we could go into negotiations with them if we were to do that, in terms of discussing how that may or may not be beneficial or what we have or don't have to negotiate with. I wouldn't want to discuss in public sessions.
I'm not asking for that.
Yep.
Just,
Yes,
theoretically.
yes, legally we could because they were a sole bidder.
And then, is the other bid, the 3-year bid that they originally submitted, that's dead in the water, no chance of bringing that to life?
Yes, that bid has expired.
So the only option on the table right now is a 1-year
Right now.
bid with
Yes.
another $35,000, whatever it is.
Yes.
And I know it's a small part of the budget, but you did mention that you had $8,000 in there for field trips. Just wanted to dig into the nature of the field trips a little bit, because I understand from having members of my family on PTOs and friends on PTOs that a lot of times the PTOs are the ones funding those field trips. So I was just wondering where the $8,000 is coming from for they mentioned for field trips.
When I was discussing with my team to go over and verify some numbers, they always told me that the field trips are not included in the initial bid, and we average about $600 per field trip, and we average 12 field trips a year throughout the course of the school.
And that's on top of whatever PTO might pay for the field trip, or is that in lieu of, because maybe there's some field trips
Those
that
are
aren't?
according to the bills that we have received in prior years,
Okay.
even this year.
Okay.
We can look to drill those down and see if those are, so for example, there may be transportation costs associated with a program that we lump under field trips, so we can get a breakdown of that in terms of if there's things that are supported, as well as making sure that, all students as well as can participate regardless of ability to pay.
Much more to add than I'm extremely disappointed that this is the only option we have. This is such a strain on our budget, and it's one of our biggest budget items, and it's just very disheartening to hear that's gone up so significantly beyond what we originally budgeted for. And I understand the gas prices. I drive by them every day, so I get it. But it's a tough pill to swallow in this budget season.
Any other questions? And I do think we just need to keep working with our legislature. The transportation is not part of the funding formula. We get no reimbursement or help from the state for all of these expenses. So it is what it is, but if we can keep working with our legislatures, and maybe hopefully we can get some relief from the state. And with that, we can move on.
Ms. Vetta, I will have some additional information for next week's meeting. However, it will not help this budget.
Thank you, Michelle. Okay, that's going to bring us to item C, discussion action personnel job performance fiscal year 2026-27 faculty and staff reduction.
Mr. Pedraza, as we go into this, can I just ask that some explanation and some sort of education be done around this particular item? Because We know, sitting up here, that it needs to be labeled as personnel job performance, but that is not, it is not about job performance. So if we can, only because there are people in the room who have not been here before and don't know, so I just want to like kind of educate and those people who are listening.
So just to clarify, when we put notice on the agenda and we have to state the Rhode Island general law, that's where those terms come from. But you are absolutely right. And I'm going to turn it over to the superintendent to talk more about what this actually is.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Before you, you have in your packets are personnel reductions for fiscal year 2027. The positions before you, in some cases, or in most cases, well, let me start with in all cases. In all cases are positions that hold value for our students and our community. There are definitely no easy choices. There, as was alluded to earlier, these are not things that we wanted to do, and we took all steps to attempt to avoid them. In terms of some of the positions here are every step or in every recommendation before you is with the intent to minimize disruption to teaching and learning, to impact as few people as possible, and to take advantage of where there has been or will be natural attrition, so that people who are not in the organization yet are the positions that we're trying to affect. That is not the case here, and in any case where that is or position that is before you in this recommendation, I do need to emphasize, and I will state for the record, that none of these proposed reductions reflect the performance or reflect performance concerns with any of the staff members who are affected. Any affected employees by this recommendation have served the students of South Kingstown and the districts of South Kingstown with dedication and professionalism, and I know that they will continue to do so throughout this year, as well as if they're able to continue with us in future years. But again, all of these positions are due to fiscal exigency or changes in enrollment that make these cuts necessary in order to achieve a balanced budget in FY27. We are currently using, as I alluded to earlier, a $1 million in FY27 from two operations. Additionally, we have a one-time loss of expenses of approximately $750,000. So before we even get started, we are in a structural deficit next year. Before we even talk about the surplus, before we talk about what you would like to see from us next year or what we present next week, we are $1.75 million in the hole starting next fiscal year. Fiscal year 28. That's where we are right now. And so again, these cuts are done or being proposed again for fiscal exigency reasons, and are 100% do not speak to the quality of the educators who hold these positions or who will be affected by these cuts.
Thank you. I think it is imperative that we do make that clear. This has absolutely nothing to do with the performance of any individual. Before we take up the list in front of us, I'm going to ask if anybody wants to have an item removed from the list to vote on separately.
Repeat your question, please.
So we have a list of 14 reductions. Does anybody, are you prepared to move forward with all 14, or does anybody have an item they would like removed from the list to vote on separately?
I'd like number 9 to be removed from the list to vote on separately, please.
Thank you. We will remove number 9 to vote on separately. Just for the record, number 9 is the world language at Broad Rock Middle School.
I would like number 7 to be pulled from this.
All right, we will remove 7 to vote on separately. That is the social worker 0.5 reduction to the district. All right, seeing no others, I would like to entertain a motion to vote on the remaining 12, to accept those, to accept the recommendation of those 12 from the superintendent.
I'll make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation for personnel reductions minus number 9 and number 7 for the fiscal year 27.
Second.
All right, is there any discussion?
So I'm hoping we can also get some clarification as to why we have to do this now. And kind of, Ms. Garvin, you brought up a topic of going back to the town, and it's a valid ask, and it's something we can do, but we have Rhode Island general law that we have to follow. Also, we have the teacher's contract that we have to adhere to. So we have two components, that kind of go against what one would think would be common sense. That was brought up multiple times at the microphone by all you folks. So and Mr. Pajaj, if you will explain this way more eloquently than I would. If you could explain like why we have to make this decision tonight, and what the process of if we find out that we can get more money or have more money, and then we could call people back, so why it has to happen the way it's happening.
Sure. So both in certain collective bargaining agreements and in Rhode Island general law, notice of personnel reductions must be done by a certain date. If they cannot be done even for fiscal exigency after a certain date, and in many cases this is still before final state aid is approved. So there can be an increase in state aid. There can also be further decreases in state aid. When you are facing deficits that run into the 6 and 7 figures, the unfortunate aspect of this is that personnel, the way that we need to make up those deficits is by cutting the largest costs, which again, personnel, so salary and benefits makes up close to 80, if not 80+% of the school's budget. As such, to provide the district the most flexibility given the number of unknowns, whether that be federal funding levels, state funding levels, or state funding levels that are going to change versus the governor's recommended budget versus what the General Assembly ultimately puts a gavel down on. There are still lots of unknowns, and unfortunately, giving the district the greatest amount of flexibility up against a hard deadline of taking action for personnel by May 30th is why this action is necessary. And in cases such as these, I would recommend making cuts that provide that buffer, because if you do not, you are looking at the elimination of things that you are cutting down, which we've already gone into, because we've sharpened all the pencils. They're down to the nub. We may have to, trying to get to hundreds of thousands of dollars through nubs of pencils, it's potentially not there, which then would require us to use fund balance, which then puts us potentially out of whack with our current policy, as well as be able to take care of any other information or any other emergencies that may happen during the course of the school year. So it is both in terms of collective bargaining agreements and Rhode Island general law, we must take certain personnel actions before May 30th and take action and provide those folks notice and opportunity to dispute that action. And as such, that is why it is here before you this evening, to give that notice, to take that action, and to provide then, again, we'll have then additional numbers for us to craft a final FY27 to come before you next week.
A couple of things. First, I want to say thank you to the people who came to the podium tonight, especially the students. It's obvious the impact that these teachers are having on you, for you to come forward with eloquence and commitment to not only yourselves and to the teacher, but to the future of our schools. So thank you for that, as well as to the parents and anybody else who has come forward, because you are the voice and we need to hear that. So thank you for that. I also want to say thank you to the two committee members for taking two of what's obvious very important pieces that has a lot of passion here in the room tonight. Could you, Mr. Pedraza, could you also just give some, without giving false hope, obviously the state, as we've discussed, kind of, this feels a little bit, how do I say this without saying this, but backwards. That we're putting forward a budget without really knowing what the state is going to potentially allot to us to help offset any potential budget deficits that we have. Could you speak to that a little bit?
Not with good things to say, other than that is the reality. I will also be clear that less than 2 years ago, we got a increase in state aid. However, then they changed the ESRI and MERS levels in terms of what municipalities had to pay into the retirement system. We lost money. It was touted in the papers as state aid increase. However, what they didn't show you was the increase of percentage that you then had to pay, which more than offset whatever we gained. So that is the type of, because of the risk that this structure has set up, why, once again, these cuts, these exceed where we are at currently, because there could be an increase in state aid, but there could also be a decrease in state aid. Our federal numbers are in for the most part, but again, those are for the most part restricted funds. And we didn't have, depending on the category. So I'll speak to that in terms of, we can keep on asking for clarity, but it is the way that unfortunately the General Assembly and Legislature goes about its business, and again, is one other reason for an improved funding formula that has not only an improved rationale behind the numbers, but also increased transparency of what you can expect year to year to year. And some level of predictability would benefit all of our communities and this process.
So, as most of the people in the room know, I've been on this school committee for 14 years. In addition to that, I've been an educator in public schools and currently at the community college for more years than a lot of you have been alive. This is the most hateful, hardest part of this job that I volunteered for. But I would also like to comment that in addition to what Superintendent Pedraza mentioned about the May 30th deadline for notifying teachers. Added on top of that is we've been working on this budget since December in the budget subcommittee and also here at the school committee table and in our joint meetings. Our town charter requires that we have a budget presented to the town manager by February 14th. So we submit that budget and then we can make amendments down the line once we see how much they decide they're going to allot to us in the property tax transfer. Then we make the necessary adjustments. Balancing the dates that are out there holding over our heads. And then the governor comes up with his budget. We've already submitted our budget. And it goes to the General Assembly. They meet until June 30th. But we have the May 30th deadline for notifying teachers and support staff. So all of that has to be taken into consideration. I'd like to also address a remark that I think you said your name was Ms. Brown, that said most of the people in this community have traditionally valued education. And I would agree with that. I am a South Kingstown student. My children were South Kingstown High School graduates. And all of my family is South Kingstown folks. And I do think there are some people who you would think do not value education, but as an educator, my opinion is in many cases, it's not that they don't value education, it's that they have no clue why we can't run the schools the way we did in the 60s. And every one of us sitting here in this room knows that's unconscionable. So it's an understanding thing that we'd have to rely on you folks to communicate that to the naysayers and the ones that are, saying we shouldn't ask for an increase in our budget while they send their children to private and charter schools. I'm grateful to every one of you that has come out tonight. And I'm a former high school teacher. I'm especially grateful to those high school students who had the guts to get up here and stand in front of a microphone, in front of mostly a bunch of strangers to you, and speak your heart for something. And so your teachers, all of them, from kindergarten, your families are doing something right. And I'd also like to thank the adults that have come out and spoken out. It's not an easy thing to do. If I had my way, this list wouldn't exist. But it is state law that school departments cannot work with an unbalanced budget. So we're just trying to obey the law. Thank you for everything.
Yeah, I agree with Ms. Brousseau wholeheartedly that I would not want this list, and I've never wanted these kinds of lists in front of us as a school committee making these decisions. I think we're up against a few different things, a few different challenges. We talked about the budget cycle, timing challenge, and by the time, I lived this before I was on the school committee, by the time you get to know that there's a problem, know that there's a shortfall, it's too late. The town has submitted their budget by the end of April. We have to respond to that, and there's minimal mechanisms we have to address any shortfalls if they weren't addressed prior to that. And we did have successful discussions with the town council this year to get some additional funding, not as much as we'd wanted, but we did get additional funding. The problem is they don't see how much we need it. They don't see what you see every day. They don't see what goes on in those walls, in those schools, where there's challenges that require funding, that require people to be paid to be in those positions and be in those roles. And when we talk about not addressing or not honoring a $2.5 million ask, which was still, I felt, a compromise because we had already started taking money from fund balance. We already were trying to bridge that gap, and we didn't get that money that we were looking for. This is the problem it creates, and this is the thing that they don't see. I think, and it's something they're not going to see, or the community's not going to see until it's too late. So we need to have those discussions earlier, just given the budget cycle. I know next year we're going to talk about starting that conversation earlier, but it is something we need to do, and it doesn't help us for next year, but does help us, hopefully help set us up for a more successful conversation in years coming. I think another point I want to make, that having been on this committee for some time now, is we've had other levers. We've had other mechanisms to help balance the budget in the face of declining enrollment. We've had schools we've been able to close. We've had things we've been able to do. And perhaps we just made it too easy for the community to understand that, we'll just make it work. And we did. We made it work. And we made some tough decisions. We made some tough calls. We closed Kurt's Corner. We closed Wakefield School. Those were tough conversations. Those were impactful decisions. But we don't have those mechanisms anymore. And now we have to have a balanced budget on the backs of people. And that's where we are.
Go ahead.
I typically have a rule for myself and for my colleagues that there's no crying in the school committee. But I'm having a hard time today. This is my 9th time doing this. And it is devastating every time. Add to it the climate that we're in right now. Add to it the trauma that our community is facing or has faced over time. Add to it the budget hearings that our kids and families have to go through every year. Add to it our own personal struggles, and so I apologize for being more emotional than I normally am at the microphone. My biggest struggle with this, and I've had it since the matrix was first put in front of us a couple months ago or weeks ago or whatever it is by now, is anything on our list that impacts our programs and our students, which I know everybody I know I'm not alone. I know that is fully, we're all in agreement with that. But I will say that I find myself having a hard time accepting even all 12, because there's still a couple on here that are directly impacting our students, right? So we have some of the reductions are positions that weren't filled, or we were able to, do certain things where it's not literally impacting the actual education and the students that we're faced, but there still are a couple on here that will, and so I don't know I don't know how to reconcile that with myself, right? So I don't know as far as saying yes to the 12 remaining, and I'm trying to remember because I don't have the document in front of me. I believe the number 2, the grade 2 position, and I think the grade 3 at Matunic. I think one of them is a open position and one of them isn't. I struggle with making an approval that will, again, like I said, will impact directly our students. So I'm not quite sure how to navigate that with tonight's meeting and making a decision tonight. I know we've built this meeting so we had some wiggle room, so if we need to make adjustments and changes, we have time. But I just, I'm struggling with this.
I agree. This is the hardest thing we have to do every year, and it doesn't get any easier. I think we're trying to impact as few people as possible, trying to look at retirements and resignations and things first. But yeah, this will impact people. It impacts students. There's no way around getting around that. But we have to have a balanced budget, and we have statute by state law when people need to be noticed. So with that, I'm going to do a roll call vote on these 12. Stuart Lander?
Before voting, can I try something else? Or so I'm just so we have to do this by May 30th, right? We have to.
So not only do we have to do it by May 30th, we have to then provide notice and then provide the opportunity to be heard and to contest that as well in that letter. So if you take action tonight, if you were to accept any or one of them, all of them or one of them, individuals who are affected by that action, one whose position who will be affected will be given notice and be given the opportunity to appeal the action you took this evening. Additionally, all of the people who are going to be impacted throughout the organization to make space for contractually obligated job personnel assignments will be given notice that their jobs are going to be affected and that they then need to prepare and participate in the contractually obligated job assignment process moving forward. And once we hit, if somebody were to contest it or if we were to get different budget, we can then make changes to the adopted. Again, we're trying to get the adopted FY27 so that we're not doing it all at once, that we can get the core of the budget approved and then do budget amendments as new information comes in, and we can do adjustments. We don't have to go back in looking for supplies. We know where the cuts are and where the reinstatements would be. But for everything that we take out, to a certain extent, we're going to have to find something to replace it, or it's going to then default to more and more fund balance, assuming that there is some, because we have to pass a balanced budget. So if we take out 150,000, I got to find 150,000 somewhere else. And after May 30th, we will no longer be able to have personnel be part of those conversations.
In order to do the work that the administration needs to do, we have to make a decision tonight.
Tonight.
Yes.
Okay. So this is, so how do you want us to vote on the,
It's to accept the recommendation
of the
of
entirety?
these,
It's,
of the
is it
12.
of the 12? It's either
Correct.
a yay or a nay
Yay
for
to
all 12?
accept the reduction of these 12 on the list.
Got it. Yeah. Can I pass for now?
I can come back to you.
Please.
Yes.
I just gotta read this
No,
really
no,
closely.
you are allowed to say, come back to me. Right? Kate Massinati?
Because there's, and I hear you, Mr. Pedraza, I fully respect you, I fully respect this process, but because there is, I would love to, I have to vote on the motion that's on the table. So I'm gonna vote no on the motion that's on the table, because there's another position in there that I personally would like to pull out, so. That's my answer.
Can I rescind the motion?
Okay, Kate, would you like to amend the motion to pull out another line item?
Is that how I word it? I'd like to amend the motion, or can I just say, I'd love to pull number 2 out of the list?
Okay, so we have a motion on an amendment to remove also item 2. No, I know, we're going to get a second. We're going to vote on the amendment. I know. All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, we're just voting on the amendment to pull number 2. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion passes. So now we are down to voting on 11 items, and I will start the roll call vote again. Mr. Landers, do you want me to come back to you again?
That was one of the ones I was looking at, so thank you for pulling that. There's one other one I would like, so amend
Okay.
another one,
Which one would you like to amend?
number 10.
Number 10. All right. Do I have a second to amend to also pull off number 10?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. So we are down to 10 with numbers 2, 7, 9, and 10 removed. All right. Now we're going to vote on the 10 remaining. Stuart Lander.
Can I pull another one? I'm sorry. These are all people. Come back to me.
Some of these are not. Some of these are not. Some of these are not positions that people are needed in. Remember, there are positions in here that are before you that we're making adjustments to the existing cohort because the cohort behind them does not require that many sections.
Got it. So I would approve all of the ones that are not affected by that.
Might I suggest
okay.
that the problem that we're faced with is when we look at this piece of paper that is in front of us, while we had that information shared with us, we don't have it in front of us, so it is very hard, it is very difficult for us to sort out which is which.
Yeah. All right. I mean, when we do vote on them individually, we will be able to ask those questions. I want to get down to voting on as many as we can together, though. So, Stuart, is one more that you need to remove? So we're down to 10.
Okay,
Okay. Do you want me to come back to you?
yes.
All right.
So we're clear what the motion on the table is that this is the motion to, and correct me if I'm wrong, I just want to be clear for the record, that this is the motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation as far as personnel reductions involving numbers 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 11, 12, 13, and 14, correct? So we are pulling.
That is
or
correct.
The committee is pulling 2, 7, 9, and 10 for further discussion and further vote after this.
That is correct.
Okay.
All right. Kate Massinati.
Aye.
Paula Whitford.
Aye.
Michelle Brousseau.
Aye, but only because I have to.
James Restivo.
Begrudgingly, aye.
Myself, Carol Vetter. It's hard, but aye. Stuart Lander.
Aye on what's remaining.
All right. Thank you. That motion passes. All right. We're going to take these just in the order on the list. And the next one, the first one is item 2, a 1.0 reduction of grade 2 at West Kingston Elementary School. And I'm going to ask the superintendent to speak directly why the position is on this list.
The current grade 1 cohort of students at West Kingston Elementary, the current grade 1 has 2 sections, currently has 42 students. The current cohort of grade 2 students at West Kingston has 3 sections. And as such, next year's grade 2 at West Kingston can be sustained. This year's first graders rising to grade 2, 2 sections is sufficient for the current enrollment.
Does that mean that we need another section at the higher grade level?
No, the existing cohorts after that are at 3. So those grade level cohorts are appropriately have the appropriate staff. There are no further changes in cohorts in section sizes based on current enrollment.
But you have 3 grade 2s. Wouldn't they move into 3 grade 3s?
Correct, and there are currently 3. There are currently 2 kindergartens, 2 grade 1s. Currently 3 grade 2s, currently 3 grade 4s, currently 3 grade 5s. Those would all remain.
Got it. Okay, thank you. I see the numbers now clearly. All right. Let's start with a motion and a second, and then we'll open it for discussion.
I'll make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation regarding item 2 from the memorandum.
Second.
All right. Do we have any discussion? All right. For each of these, I will do a roll call vote if there's no discussion.
Just
Okay.
more of a clarification for folks who are watching, because it is complicated because it's not reducing individuals, it's reducing a section. And then what happens is Rhode Island general law kicks in and says it's dictated by seniority. And then the negotiating, the whatever's left as far as in the teacher's contract when it comes to layoffs and displacements, we have to follow the contractual obligations afterwards. So it's, I want to make that clear, that that's why it is going to play out the way it does.
I want to thank you for that. I also want to thank you for moving it so we could have this needed conversation to see how the process works. It really comes down to the needs, and unfortunately, that this is just how the enrollment is played out. And you're exactly right, then it goes through what's in the collective bargaining agreement. So thank you for that clarification.
I think another further clarification that could come into play here is that it's a position on the budget. It may not be filled by an individual at the moment, or if it is, it may or may not be filled by an individual. What we're voting on is that position in our budget. So whether there's a retirement or 1 year or an empty position, we're voting on that position, not necessarily the person occupying that role.
All right, Stuart Lander.
Aye.
Kate Massanati.
Aye.
Paula Whitford. Michelle Brousseau.
Aye.
James Restivo.
Aye.
And Carol Vetter is aye. That motion passes. That will bring us to number 7, a 1 point. This is actually a 0.5 reduction of a social worker who's district-wide.
I'll make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation for item number 7 as presented on the memorandum.
All right. Do we have any discussion?
Perhaps we could get a clarification on that one as well, in terms of, since that's a half reduction.
So we would like to make sure that we have social workers dedicated to each school. However, given the fiscal position as well as the current enrollment of each school would be taken into account. Currently, at this current school year, Matunic Elementary has 238 total students. Peacedale Elementary, not counting preschool, has 338 positions, or students, excuse me, and West Kingston currently has 300 students. So in terms of the allocation of social workers across the district, specifically across our elementary, we would make proportional to enrollment, and that is why that is before you this evening.
Any further questions or discussion? Paula?
So, I understood that we were just reducing one social worker to a 0.5. However, in light of things that have been happening, I cannot be comfortable with that. Like, I feel like we need to add support staff wherever we have students. And people be in these buildings to support our students. So that was my reason for pulling that from this list.
Thank you. All right, with that, we're going to vote. Stuart Lander?
Yeah, I was told many years ago when I was in a position to hire and, quote, fire people, my president of my company said to me, Stuart, you really need to learn to fire people sooner. So I guess I haven't learned that yet. But, aye.
Kate Massanati?
Aye.
Paula Whitford?
Nay.
Michelle Brousseau?
Reluctantly, aye.
James Restivo?
Aye.
And I, Carol Vetter, am an aye. So that motion passes. That'll bring us to number 9, the 1.0 world language reduction at Broad Rock Middle School.
So I'll make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation for item number 9 as presented on the memorandum.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, any discussion?
Yeah, this would be definitely a good one to hear more about.
But, you know, I just want to say, to start this conversation, you know, I said many times, we don't want to cut programs. And for me, I feel this one is a program. And I was really glad when Kate removed it, because if you didn't, I was going to. We said if we cut elementary music, we're hurting it at the middle school and the high school. And I feel if we cut, we don't even begin languages till our middle school. And that's not right either, but we don't have additional funds to start it sooner. But I just feel like if we cut more at the middle school, we're going to hurt the high school. It's those feeder programs that matter. So cutting this is cutting a program. And when I said I didn't want to cut programs, I meant it. So and now I'm getting emotional because this is hard. I don't want to cut programs. So that's where I am with this one. Anybody else have questions or want to?
Well, I personally took French in high school. I'm going to France this year to my niece's wedding, who actually took Spanish in high school and now speaks fluent French because she's marrying a wonderful man from France. I speak 2 other languages, and so I heard clearly from the students here tonight the impact that it not only had on them in terms of their ability to speak the language, but what it's done for them on a personal level and how they've achieved more across the board. And so for me, I'm a nay on this one.
Well, we're not voting yet.
Finally, I get to a vote quick and
because we're still in the discussion phase.
okay.
So on this one, I heard the students loud and clear, and I heard the teacher loud and clear. But Carol, what you have to say is very poignant, and we have done a disservice to language in our district for a couple of years now, and this is not a reflection on our administration, and it's not a reflection on our school committee, but we've made some really impactful changes when it comes to world language, and we actually made a promise to the community that we would value language as a program and make sure that that we don't dismantle it. And I think what I heard today was a growth of a program, and I think that's the most important. I just looked at the students, and now I'm going to cry again. So I'm going to look over here. Sorry. So I think that's one of the most important things, especially because our enrollment is dropping and our students are exploring opportunity at the high school level in other schools, and that line item is growing, or we've actually stopped it from growing, and what I would hate is to start it growing again. The goal is to stop the pipeline, is to shut the valve, and if we are growing a program, anything we can do at the younger grade to continue that growth needs to be done so we can stop that out-of-district tuition from growing. We want to reduce it, which then in turn would actually be more revenue because it's already part of our budget. And if we have less students going, that's more money for our current programs. So that's kind of where I am. I feel like we would be harming a program on this one.
I've already been a part of dismantling a world language program, and it's not where I want to be today. I can see our district as a place to grow in learning, and language is part of that. So, you know, I think we'll be doing our community a good service to just keep that intact as a program that it is.
So, as Ms. Vetter said, if we remove French at the middle school, we're impacting the French program at the high school. There's no two ways about that. Because yes, some students will explore a different language, but others will not. And when I think back, my own younger two children graduated from this high school 20 and 22 years ago, and they took Spanish and Italian. I took French because that's all that was available then. I don't speak much of it now. When my middle daughter was an undergraduate, she ended up majoring in English and Spanish. She had an opportunity to go to Costa Rica and earn more credits in Spanish. And she was in Costa Rica for 6 weeks. And the very first week she was there, the email that I received from her said she had a private tutor for 6 weeks because her spoken Spanish was so much better than her college colleagues. Her written Spanish was about the same as them, but her spoken Spanish was so much better, and her statement was, "Thank you, South Kingstown High School." My son took Italian and went to Italy and was mistaken for a native Italian in Rome, and actually had an argument with someone on the street with him saying in Italian, "No, I'm an American." And as much as I know we have to balance this budget, I can't agree with cutting the French from the middle school.
I think a lot of people know how I got here at this table. There was a language program that was eliminated that my son was a part of, and I don't want to see that happen again. And that is part of the reason I'm here, to help protect our programs, help protect the experience that our students can have in our district, and make it as valuable and as impactful as we can. And to offer one language at middle school is not sufficient. That's a failure in my mind. And we can see how that pipeline works. It goes from middle school up to high school. They get that experience if they try French in middle school, which is what I did. I went to Latin in high school, but I went to a different language, so I was able to experience different languages and across the grade levels. And I think taking that away from our middle school students is the wrong decision, and it obviously is going to be impactful to a valuable and important teacher that we have in the district. So I think I would certainly not be in favor of cutting this position.
With that, we'll do a roll call. Just remember, the motion is to accept the recommendation to do the reduction. Stuart Lander.
Je suis triste. Non.
Keith Massadati.
I will not even pretend to speak French. I took Spanish. No.
Paula Whitford.
No.
Michelle Brousseau.
There's no more French in me. No.
James Estevo.
Nay.
And I am a nay. That motion does not pass. It's okay, you can clap. So, snap, snap. All right. Thank you, though, for advocating. We heard you, and it's nice to see the students. But we believe in the language program, and so thank you all. That will bring us to item 10, a 0.5 reduction in PE and health at Broad Rock Middle School. Do I have a motion?
I'll make a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation for item number 10 according to the memorandum.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay. All right, so any discussion?
Yes, could you remind us of the background on this one, please, Mr. Pedrava?
The pending enrollment of Broad Rock Middle School, so next year's sixth grade class, so our matriculating fifth graders, that number is smaller than the other cohorts. And in terms of, once again, fiscal exigency, there are classes and other academic activities that they can engage in should this position be eliminated.
Well, I'm also on the subcommittee of the wellness, and there has been discussion amongst families and people that I do know who are in the schools who are concerned about the lack of opportunity for students to be in motion and have enough activity during the school year, the school day, as opposed to waiting for after-school activities, which unfortunately not everybody gets involved in. And it was with that in mind that I was asking for this to be removed. It is a half position, so, right? So that means what specifically? That
a current position, a current part-time position is being recommended for fiscal exigency, or is being recommended to be cut next fiscal year due to fiscal exigency. It is not a reduction of a full-time position to a half-time position.
Got it.
It is a current part-time position that is recommended for fiscal exigency to be removed from our budget for next fiscal year.
Okay. Well, and with that, hopefully we'll also be able to find ways within the school day to get more activity going.
Any other questions or discussion? All right. Hearing none, we're going to take a vote. Stuart Lander.
Yes.
Kate Massinati.
Aye.
Paula Whitford.
Aye.
Michelle Brousseau.
Aye.
James Restivo.
Aye.
And I, Carol Vetter, eminent aye. That motion passes. Right, that is going to conclude item C and bring us to item E. Okay. It says
D.
It should be D, but it's anyway, it's discussion action fiscal year 2026-2027 budget.
So this is a discussion item. Again, I've mentioned it now numerous times. What we're looking to once again get I'll use quotes, but as final of an FY27 to this committee for consideration next Tuesday. In trying to do so, what we're trying to do is do the major lift first, and then we can again make sure that we're focused in on FY26 and making sure we close that out appropriately and that our numbers are accurate. And so that we can turn our attention there. And if we have the bulk of the budget, or if we have a final FY27, what we would be able to do is we would have that on the books, and we would be able to basically start managing that budget through budget amendments rather than let's discuss the whole budget and pass it. So we would have most, if not all, of the final things, and as conditions changed, we would do some minor tweaking rather than going in. So all of tonight was done with that. Again, this process began months ago. I laughed when I said weeks, or I heard weeks. Yeah, days feel like weeks ago. So this has begun months ago. There are, what I would just like to, are there any priorities or things that as we go and get ready to not only present but craft a balanced budget, are there things that there are some items that are new to this budget that we discussed from previous years, advertising? So are there topics that have come up during this budget season that you would like to see, or some marching orders regarding we would like to see this? If we have shortfalls based off of actions taken tonight, which I don't know that we will, should we turn to fund balance, or should we revisit certain non-personnel costs? And then the last question for guidance would be, moving forward, if there is no Rhode Island general law or statutory obligations, would you like to see the FY27 budget with federal grants taken out of that piece, and we present only what is dedicated? Because again, those federal grants can sometimes, we don't know what they're going to be spent on yet. So we obviously report that as separate, but when we talk about the whole budget, we take all of our revenue sources, clump them into one, and then try to make a balanced budget. I wasn't sure in terms of the federal fundings, because there are so many, to try and make a balanced budget based off of federal grants that we don't know where that money is going to go towards. So,
Can I ask you a clarifying question?
please.
So we are getting less in federal aid, correct?
That is correct.
In around 80,000 less?
That is correct.
And it's the IDEA grants, which are special education?
So IDEA is special education and preschool. So there's IDEA and then IDEA-B preschool.
Okay, and the preschool is part of our special ed?
Correct.
Okay. The other is the Title I, Title II, Title III, 4?
Yes.
Mostly in Title II, though, I understand, correct?
Most of the law, yes, most of our decline is in Title II.
So is the recommendation to find money to keep that at a static level, or is it to reduce to the actual aid we're getting for fiscal 27?
Really, it's more of how we would report it out, because at this point, what we would be doing is we would be making a best get, putting it somewhere. So, okay, there's Title II, so we've got X number of money, so let's put that towards professional services, or let's put that we have to make the numbers balance, and we don't know if those are we'd be hyper-inflating things that we don't know if we're going to spend them in those buckets yet. And it also, to me, artificially inflates what our lines are if we're putting things that ultimately we have to spend. It's fine if we put it into buckets where historically we've spent, or that we know we're doing personnel, or we know we've got a subscription, or and putting it in there. But when all of a sudden we've got $70,000, and it's like, well, what are you going to do for professional development? Well, we've got whole bunch of different. Is that subs? Is that outside contractors? Is that stipends? And essentially what we are forced to do, because that all hasn't been washed out yet, is kind of just pick a bucket. And so let's say it was purchase services or substitutes. Then it says, wow, look at your substitute line. Well, it's not necessarily, is that real, or is that an artificially inflated?
Right.
So should we have a potential, should we present, or could we present essentially our local allocation balanced out with our federal allocations into kind of bigger buckets, and that we keep those separates just so we can see, hey, here's Title I, and yes, it's going to materials, but we're not going into then seeing the material line item artificially inflated, knowing that full well those materials, some of that is Title I money that's going into those purchasing of supplies.
Okay, so I do understand what you're saying. However, I feel I got a question to my answer, or an answer to my question. Okay. In our budget, if we're $80,000 down, do we need to find that $80,000 from someplace else? Just that part of the question. Or do we just not do as much PD?
It will depend on if it's, so there's supplement, we have to supplement and not supplant. So there's a certain amount of that we'll have to spend in order to, depending on the grant. So what I would say is that if we were to keep those separate, we would then be met with a true amount that ultimately we have to spend in order to qualify to spend those other buckets.
Right. I mean, it is
and
dedicated. They're all dedicated.
That $80,000 hit, we would say, okay, here's supplies, which historically has been, if we were to remove let's say it's a $200,000 line item, but if we take out the grants, it's really 120. We should be, if we had the local budget on the 120, and then on our federal say, okay, here's how we're going to spend the federal. So it's really not a deficit that we need to make up. It's a deficit that we're making up in federal grants alone. It's something that we're going to continue to do. It's not something that, so if we need to make a cut to supplies, yeah, Mr. Proctor, sorry, but fiscal, it's, yeah.
This handout that you have right here, this is only our operating budget, no grants.
I think that's what we've done in the past. That's why where I was trying to get to was to not look at the federal grants. However, I still wanted to know if we're going to have to make up more that we would have had in operating to make up some of those decline. Will it increase our operating budget?
I'm going to go on a limb here and say normally no. You normally work within the realm of what the grant has awarded. You do not add to the grants.
Okay, that's
now
where
you are supposed to spend everything that you get in the grant, so you don't pay that. And the one thing I do want to point out is when this budget is submitted to the town does not want to see our grant money. They only want to see our operating.
I agree with you. That's why I needed clarification before I felt comfortable saying. I think I personally, and I'm going to ask everybody else, I just wanted to focus on the operating budget, but I needed that question answered, so thank you.
Now that doesn't mean we're going to record it and watch it, because moving forward, and I just want to give you this one point, prior to July 1 of this year coming up, we were not allowed to put in our grant budget into Munis. That has now changed. Come July 1, 2026, with the new fiscal year, we are going to be putting in our grant budgets in Munis. So there is going to be a real budget and expenditure picture.
But you'll still have account coding to pull out anything that's a federal grant so that you can isolate what is your operating budget.
It already is.
Okay, yes. So we're not going to lose any level of detail or anything.
No, you're getting more.
which I think is good. And it puts everybody on a level playing field if everybody's putting the same info into Munis, because now if you go out and try to find people's budget, they include different things.
But it
in
makes
those.
reporting much easier.
Yeah, I think that's great. Again, I think, given the answers to my questions, I think we only want to look at the operating budget and not confuse it with the grant revenue. But I'm going to ask everybody else the same.
Yeah, I'm with you. Would that also apply then to the state grants as well?
Yes, the
That
state
it
and
would be
federal grants are together.
So
Yes.
all
So
of
they
that is
would-
kept separate now.
They would have their own section, as well as the last section is our food service section.
Okay.
Kate?
Yeah, I actually, it sounds to me, it took me a minute to understand where we were going with this, because
Took
one
me a
of the
minute to
things
get
that I
there.
really, same. One of the things that I really hate is the concept of doing something for the sake of the fact that we've always done it that way. It's like so contrary, especially when you're in an education world, like you're supposed to step out of what we always do. So I appreciate us talking about this and working outside of what we normally do. Clearly, we want to track the money and present the money and understand where it is and what it's doing. But when it comes to what we need for our operating budget, that's what we need to focus on. And that's what we need to ask for or advocate around. So I fully agree.
Right. Paula? Oh, good? Okay. Michelle? Good.
I just want to say, I know, and going back to Kate's point, in years past, we would see, like, what we would see is different line item, right? It would be the same budget code, but it would be underneath, it would be the grant, the same budget code with the grant marked after it. I appreciate that, but if this is a situation where we'd have to see them put together in one line item, I would not be in favor of that. I'd prefer to see just our operating budget. I think it does make it less confusing if we don't mix up the grant money in with the budget code. So if we just see what's our operating budget, here's where we're getting from the town, here's what we're using, here's from the state, and here's why we're using it. That makes it more clear than trying to incorporate the grant funding in there as well. I think it might be more confusing that way. So I agree. I think we want to track it, we want to see it, we want to know what's going towards, but it's also, if it's not something we have a lot of control over, then I don't know that we need to have a broad discussion about it in the short term.
And we'll still report it out. It will just be, we'll have it as a separate conversation, and when we know and when it gets approved by RIDE. But here's your total operating budget, and it's got things that, oh, wait a minute, you've got lots of money over there. Well, no, that's money that came from a grant that we can't use for personnel, that we can't use for these things. To just break those things off and report, to make them crystal clear about unrestricted funds to us on our operating budget.
So I just want to clarify, a week from tonight on the 26th, we will have another time to approve, put a gavel down on our budget for the year. As we find out more information, probably in the July timeframe, given our legislature, what the numbers are from the state, we would do budget amendments at that point, correct?
That is correct.
All right, so, no, I sound like I think you have a good plan forward. I'm completely fine. I do appreciate the conversation, but I think that sounds like a good plan. Anybody else have any more guidance or anything to add? No.
I mean, as far as like making up any shortfalls, certainly, fund balance is an option. We do want to limit that because I know we are entering the FY28 discussions with a known structural deficit of close to $2 million. So that's going to be tricky. So we definitely don't want to use too much of our fund balance if we can avoid it. But I guess I'll leave it up to you to figure out what are the other non-personnel options we have. I'm not sure what we have available, what levers you have. I know there are few and far between at this point, but yeah, I mean, if we need to balance the budget out of fund balance, I wouldn't want to minimize that since we're already using a big chunk of it.
The only thing I would double down on is I just want to make sure that we, and I say we, 'cause it doesn't just have to be the three of you. It can be folks from the Budget and Finance Subcommittee meet with the town and make sure they understand fully what went on tonight, and then what we're talking about when we say what we're starting out in the hole. We need to start the discussion in June, July, August, whatever it is, not December, not January, not February. We need to start the discussion now on how we're going to fill that gap, knowing that we also have 2% contractual obligations for our bargaining committees, just like they do, on top of the structural deficit that we have. So I just want to make sure that it's loud and clear that the bells are already ringing for 28.
Heard. We've got to start those conversations earlier. Yeah. All right. Sounds good. Stuart.
Motion to adjourn.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned
And thank you to Katie
at
Gervin for
8:22.